So I'm kind of struck by really bad luck. I was announcing the flight today, this morning at 10 o'clock. But as you can see, the weather is not permitting me from flying in the Mavic Air 2. So it's really a tough time for me to get this tested. But I thought I would use this opportunity to just go through the app, just to show you some of the new functionalities that you get inside the DJI Fly app. So let's just head in here and just press Go Fly. As you can see on the outside, it's really raining. So it will be very irresponsible to fly right now. So this is the standard fly interface of the app. And this is much like we knew from the Mavic Mini, organized in a way that's very easy to navigate. In the upper corner here, you have the flight modes. So if I change those on the remote, you can see they will change up here as well. There's the status bar up here that will tell you if you're allowed to, or if you have any alarms or such. So that those will be showed up here. So pre-flight check normal. So if there's an alert, it will be shown up here. You also get access, or quick access to certain critical parameters. You can set the max altitude and the max distance of the drone directly from the main screen. It's very nice that you have access to these functions directly from the main screen. Finally, you can see how much recording time remains on the SD card. You have the indicator that the sensors are enabled, that the obstacle avoidance sensors are enabled. The number of satellites, that's 15. And you have the signal strength of the OcuSync 2.0. Then there's the battery icon that will tell you what the voltage is of each cell. It will tell you the battery temperature as well as the flight time. And the flight time is pretty useful actually to have that number, because that will give you a rough idea how much flight time that you can actually expect during the end of a flight. Because we are in automatic video mode right now, we have access to the exposure compensation value as well as the exposure lock. The exposure lock is a very useful feature that will allow you to lock the exposure to a given light condition and keep that regardless if the light is changing. So that's a very useful feature. Here in the middle, I'm supposed to have an indicator that will tell you which direction my aircraft is pointing. But for some reason, I have disabled the location service for the app, and when enabling it again, it doesn't really turn on here. So if some of you know how to enable that feature in the bottom of the screen, apart from uninstalling the app, I would really like to know. Over here we have the flight data, height and distance from takeoff point, as well as the speeds. There's a map that will tell you where you are. And of course, my beloved histogram, which is a graphical representation of the image or the brightness of the pixels in the image. And that will help you tremendously get the exposure right, so you don't depend on an average value across the picture. So that's more or less it. Then there's the takeoff button over here, and I'm not touching that because I'm inside the car. That would be a real disaster if I hit that one. Okay, I can press it, but I won't long press it. So the drone is taking off inside the car. I will pretty sure that the Droner DK, who kindly lended me the Mavic Air 2 for review here before anybody else got it in Denmark, they would be pretty sad if I wrecked the drone here inside the car. If you find what you are seeing in this video interesting and want to get your own Air 2 that will arrive in the mid-May, as far as I've told, I've included a link in the description below where you can pre-order this at Droner DK. Don't buy Chinese! It's pretty hard not to buy Chinese actually, because they are the world factory. And I should probably put the phone in flight mode. Let me just do that. Like that. So we're not getting any more of these YouTube notifications. So let's see what else we have here. We have the 3 dots up here. That's the secret stash where all the stuff is, all the really good stuff is located. On the right side of the app, you have all the specialities to selecting the different video modes and such. So if we just press this camera roll icon, you can see there's a menu that unfolds all the options that are available during flight with the Mavic Air 2. You have the photo mode, spanning from single, 48 megapixel, smart picture, that is a way of combining HDR photography, helping to enhance the photo in difficult light situations. There's the AEB, where we take either 3 or 5 photos with 1 or 2 overexposed or 1 or 2 underexposed and 1 with neutral exposure that can be combined in a third-party software. On the video, we have a lot of options here. We can record in 4K, 2.7K and 1080p. And the cool part about this drone is that it actually goes up to 60 FPS in 4K. And if I jump down to 1080p, you would see that I would need to press slow motion here to gain access to 120 and 240 FPS. That is a super slow motion. There's also an HDR video option that is supposed to do the same as the Smart Photo did for the photos, that it will enhance the dark and dim down the bright areas in the footage, making it better looking, making it look a lot better. We are for trying that when it stops raining. Then there's the quick shots, but we can't access those unless we are airborne. But they are all the standard ones that we know from the Mavic 2, where you get access to drone, helix, rocket and all these. If I manage to do it, I will just shoot a short demo showing you all those quick shot modes. Finally, there's the hyperlapse. If we press that, we will get access to the hyperlapse mode, and we can choose different ways of performing this hyperlapse. We can either do it freeform, we can do it as a circle. I can also not access the settings for this unless the aircraft is airborne. But we have the free mode, we have circle, we have course lock, and we have waypoints for the hyperlapse, where we can set a certain route for it to record. So those are all the video options that are available. Let's just jump into video here and do a short clip here. 1, 2, 3. And the reason why I do that is because if I press this play icon that you see here, and then you get access to the library, where you see a cached version of the footage that's currently located on the drone, as well as some previous clips from earlier flights. You have to know that these clips are not the full resolution that the drone can do, so the quality is kind of less than what the drone is actually capable of. To gain access to the full quality of the video, you need to press on the clip and press the download icon here in the bottom. Then the clip will download to your phone, and you can access it through the video editor that is a part of the DJI Fly app. If you don't know that video editor, you are in for a big surprise, because that's actually pretty advanced. The pro mode in that editor is crazy. And I made a video about that, and you can access this through this card up here. I got a question if the editor is actually capable of handling 4K footage. So let's just test that out. So we're going out here to the front, going under album, and then we can press create. And then under Pro here, we can take the short clip that we just used and press add. And as you can see, the downloaded clip in full 4K quality can easily be handled. Oh, now it's thunder as well. This is getting increasingly hard to test the Mavic Air 2 with thunder and all going on. Okay, but at least we are having fun looking through the app. Okay, so the editor can handle 4K footage if you download it to your phone. How to access active track from the main screen, you're probably thinking. That's pretty easy. You just simply do a square like that, and you will get access to all the options of point of interest as well as active track. By the way, do you enjoy my content? Then consider subscribing and hitting the bell next to it so you don't miss out on my upcoming videos. Let's jump back into the interface and take a look at the 3 dots in the upper right corner. Up here we have all the settings for the drone. For those of you that already own a Mavic Mini, you would know a lot of these. There's the max altitude of the drone. There is the max distance, and right now that's set to no limit. I don't think that's very wise, so we just reduce this to 1 kilometer-ish, so like that. And then there is the auto return to home altitude, and this is basically when you press the return to home button here. If you press that one, this is the altitude that it would descend to or ascend to before it returns to home. And make sure that this is put in a height that make it clear obstacles on the way home. It has sensors in the front, the drone, of course it has, so what will happen is, unless it can figure it out, I haven't tried it, so but you can get in a situation, or you could get in a situation, at least with the older Mavic drones, where it got stuck behind an obstacle and couldn't find its way home. DJI has probably taken care of this with the Mavic Air 2, with the new APAS 3.0. So let's go in here. There's a way of updating the home point. You can enable or disable the optical detection. You can enable and disable the advanced pilot system APAS 3.0. And this is a function that will allow the drone to dodge certain obstacles when it's trying to track you. There are the two options to calibrate the compass and the IMU. You can decide how the auxiliary LED should behave. You can either turn them completely off, you can put them on all the time, or you can allow the drone to take the decision. There's the option for unlocking the geozones, as well as the advanced security settings, where you can define how the drone should behave in case that it loses signal. Also there is Find My Drone, which is a very, very nice feature that I hope you will never have to use. There's a remote identification. As it says, remote identification allows observers on the ground to track where the aircraft is flying and who is piloting it. Much like an automobile license plate, providing personal information is so far optional. So that was the safety tab. Let's jump into the control tab. Here you can set the base units that you will be using. Depending on where you are, you might prefer to switch it into Imperial. But for me, I'm in Europe, so I like meters. You can decide how the gimbal should operate. If it should be in follow mode, which is the mode that I use most often, but you can also switch it into FPV mode, where it follows the aircraft. You can allow the gimbal upward rotation. There's a certain limit to how high I can go with the gimbal. So if I just go back here and enable it, like that. So see, now I can get it up in the windshield again. So that's pretty nice if you're flying under obstacles and such and want to film upward. So let's see, there's the gimbal calibration, there's a recenter gimbal. That's just a gimbal calibration tab. There is phone charging. You can actually get this one to charge your phone. I don't know how big the battery is, but there's 240 minutes of battery time on this remote. So I guess the battery inside is pretty huge. So it's really nice that you have the option to charge your phone directly from the remote in case that you run low on juice. So the stick mode, that's mode 2. That basically means that you have ascent, descent in this side. You have the yaw motion, where the drone turns around its own axis here on the left side. You have pitch and you have roll. Yeah, so that's mode 2. You can change that if you are used to flying it in a different way. But the majority of the world will actually fly it in mode 2. So this is the option where you can assign this function button to do something for you. And right now it tilts the gimbal. Let's just take this one away. So if I press it once, it will turn on the light on the drone. Maybe you can see that. So turn on the landing light. So that's very nice that you can change the behavior of that. There's an option to recalibrate the remote in case that you run into problems with the remote not being able to connect to the drone. There's access to some basic flight tutorials that will probably help you if you're new to this hobby. Let's jump into the camera tab. Here you can decide between MOV and MP4. I would say, hey, now it's hailing. What the fuck is going on here, man? It's really crappy weather. Nah. Okay. At least we're inside. And we can decide between the format, between MPEG-4 or MOV. MPEG-4 is the most widely and most compatible format out there, so I would recommend keeping it there. Down here we can look at the color profiles, the colors. Then there's the coding format, the H.264 and H.265. The H.265 is the one that you should choose if you are recording 4K footage, because that offers the best compression ratio for those files. But be aware, it also requires quite a powerful computer to actually replay those files. And in case you run into compatibility issues, you can always go to H.264. You can enable subtitles, and it's not like we are saying anything on the drone video, but the subtitles will actually include flight or camera settings onto your footage as subtitles. And we have the histogram. We talked about that. We have the exposure warnings. Those are the zebra stripes that you probably have seen. Let's just go over here, select video here. Let's just do some zebra stripes here. So if I go in here and overexpose the footage, so now you can see the zebra stripes. They will show you when your footage is overexposed. Let's just take those away. That. So you can enable and disable those. There are different lines that will help you make a good composition on the screen. I prefer these 9 squares because they indicate the rule of third, and that helps me a lot when I have to make some compositions and decisions when flying. So let's see what else we have here. There's the white balance. Much like we got access to that on the Mavic Mini, we can set the white balance here, so we can decide what kind of temperature our footage should have. And in this case, if I had to set this manually, I would set it to 6500, like that. But let's just leave it on auto for now. Auto sync of HD photos. I will assume this will sync the photos directly onto the phone. Down here there is the 2 storage locations. The Mavic Air 2 internal storage of 8 GB. And I have mounted a 128 GB SD card, so I have plenty of space on the drone right now. But no chance of flying it. And cache video when recording, that's a good one. That's what generates all the small thumbnails inside the video archive. So you want to set that to a certain size, so you're sure that you get a cached version of all your footage. That will give you easy access to evaluate if you got the shots that you have planned. And there's a general reset button to the camera settings. There's the transmission tab, and we are not going to mess around with that because the drone is using OcuSync 2.0, so the connection will be super stable with this one. There's also been a few that have asked if the FCC hack that I described for the previous Mavic Air still works on the Air 2, but I would make that claim that even in Europe you don't need that, because with the OcuSync 2.0 you will have a super strong connection. With the FCC version you will have up to 10 kilometers of range, and I would expect this to be around half in Europe. And finally, there's the About section. In here you can check the current firmware that the aircraft is running, and you can also update the FlySafe database in case you need to do that. So this was a super fast walkthrough of the DJI Fly app, which is now being used for both the Mavic Mini and the Mavic Air 2. That's the thunder. It's amazing. The audio seems to be disturbed a lot by the rain and hail that is going on outside, so I excuse for the bad audio quality.